So I guess what we're going to do is maybe get this on video. I'll show you how to get this thing apart. First things first, we got to take the door off the front, and it's just clipped on here and pulls off just like that. Now just a quick little aside here, this gives you real easy access to the head lock for adjustments and things like that. That's good to know. We might need to make a use of that later. So I hope you can still see. We've got 2 screws here and 3 screws in the bottom. And of course we need to get in here and unplug all the wires too. And lose the screw. Great. It'll find itself out of there eventually. Now, all these wires are clipped in down here, and then we've got a bunch of these weird ties here. I usually just cut these off and throw them away. After this much time, they really don't reuse very well. So let me just get my giant hands in here, try to get these wires out. Be very gentle, you don't want to break any, like I often do. Just work them out and they'll come out. Sorry about the camera shake. I've got it on a gimbal right now, but said gimbal is attached to said table where said cassette deck is being worked on. So there's a little shaking going on. So how many of these have I got free now? It's getting there. This is the thing about some of these older 80s decks. No ribbon cables to make things easier. They're all just one giant rat's nest of wires most of the time, or at least some of the time. A little bit hard to see down in there, but they're coming out slowly but surely. Of course, the real challenge is untangling all these wires again later when you want to put them back in. Assuming you even do that. On the RCA, I just bundled them all together and zip tied them right back together. Okay, so that's free. I'll just take my wire cutters and we'll say goodbye to these ties. And there they are. Technically those could be reused, but after all this time, I figure it's just better to get rid of them. Now we'll unplug this connector from the back of the transport. That one right there. That's for the tension control board, which we'll get into momentarily, because that board is the difference between a regular DX8 and this thing. Now, we've got these wires, so there is one little ribbon cable here. Go all the way over there. Let's see if we can pull these out. We'll drape that over there. Oh, we got one more tie to get rid of. And that one disintegrated as I was removing it. Lovely. Got a little 2-wire connection there, which is probably for the little light in the deck, which the RCA does not have. So we'll have to remember that. Now let's compare these briefly. These are different connectors, so we don't need to worry about mixing them up. So what else have we got going on here? Okay, we need to remember that the gray audio wire goes to the center of the board. Let me get you in here again. So we need to remove this one and this one, and the brown one goes all the way over here. These are for the different channels, left and right. So we need to remember where those go. Just work them out gently because this type of wire breaks very, very easily. It's shielded audio wire, so remember that. Now, what else? Yes, the brown one. Out comes the brown one. This may turn into a longer video, but that's okay. If it helps you with a future project yourself, then it's worth it, says I. Okay, that wire goes to the power switch, so we don't need to worry about that. But we do have another little set of wires going here. And those are soldered. Lovely! Now, how do I deal with that? I might have to desolder those. Or perhaps I could just leave them in place. Yeah, I'm going to try to service this with those wires in place. With the rest of these out, it should be a little bit easier. Okay, now we've got this big set of wires here going to the power supply, and there's yet another little tie we need to cut. Let's see if I can move things out of the way here. And off that one comes. And once again, we have a connector that will not plug in anywhere else, so that's good. Okay, let's see what else is going on in here. Just want to make sure I really need to worry about these soldered in ones. I may not have to. I pull the audio wires up through here, which leaves one still tangled up in those soldered in wires. And I just want to see where these wires go. And this is where they go, right in here. There's a little micro switch in there that I think they run to. So yeah, it's just crazy to me. Let me show you real quick. See that? That's where they go. That's a connector, and yet they went soldered in. I just don't get it, honestly. Doesn't make any sense. So we've got just about every wire except those freed up. Oh, those are for the erase head. Okay. I gotcha. And on this model, because it's a 3-head flippy head design, there are 2 erase heads, one for each direction. I'll show them to you right here. There's one here, and there's one here. And that's because those heads are stationary. They don't flip around with the rest of the heads. On a 3-head deck like this that has auto reverse, you need to have the record and playback head right next to each other, so they have to flip around. Okay. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and desolder those. Back it a little bit. Okay, I got them desoldered now, and they are loose. There you go. Remember which one goes to which side of that connector. Brown and gray, if you're doing this yourself. Now we've got to finish getting this transport out, so we'll set it up like this. And we've got 3 screws underneath here. Or possibly 2 screws. The 3rd screw is supposed to be there, I think. At least on the RCA, that's where it is. Let me just double check here. Oh no, we've got a big bracket going to it, so there's 4 screws. We've got these 2 here, and these 2 here. Try not to block your view here. So, at least I think these screws are for the mechanism. Can be kind of hard to tell with some of these decks which screw does what. And these are all the same types of screws, but these 2 at the back do not have washers on them. Keep that in mind. The ones with the washers go up front. Remember that. Now it looks like, yes, we do have a little bit of a plate going on here. And we've got wires right up in there. Interesting. Very interesting. I think we're going to have to remove this whole metal plate. So I'll just do that real quick. This also gives you access to the bottom of the circuit board, or the main board, which is real nice of Hitachi. You don't have to take the circuit board out to work on this. At least most of this. But when it comes to the bottom plate, remember there is a screw deep in there. You don't want to miss that one. Now, note to self, That's a machine screw. It comes right out of that hole. We got to remember that one. Now, just the one that's way back in there, and this plate should come off. Okay, it's loose. And we will gently start working it off. And off she comes. Okay, now we've got this little thing here to deal with. Which is just a simple metal shield. Probably for RF shielding. Now on the RCA it had this too, and I just simply removed it because it was interfering with the mechanism. It got bent or something and it wouldn't work properly. Now I'm just going to guess that we have to work these very, very tiny wires loose here before we can remove the transport. Be super careful with these kinds of wires. They break extremely easily. And in this case, I don't think I've got replacements for wire this small. So I want to be very careful with that. So I'll just poke them through there. And we've got some other wires to work loose up top here. We've got the erase head wires. I don't know if, let me pan you back down so you can see what we're doing here. Now these two are for the erase head wires. We need to free them up, which would be a lot easier with a dental pick, so let me go get one real quick. Okay, back. And yes, I did say dental pick. I learned very quickly that they are very handy for things like taking power supplies apart for reviews. These wires are clipped in, but again, be very careful with them. Just kind of work them loose as best you can. Because if you break them, you got to replace them. Unless, of course, you don't plan on recording with the deck. If you don't plan on recording, playback only, you don't have to worry about these. But I would like to get this thing 100%, so I'm being as gentle as I can possibly be. And if you don't want to do this kind of thing yourself, I do not blame you. It takes a lot of patience to deal with stuff like this. Okay, out she comes. Now I'm just going to take one last look around, see if there are any screws I'm missing, or anything else I'm missing. It should be free now. I believe it is free. Okay, we didn't actually have to remove the front door to get the transport out, but we did have to remove it to do the stuff we needed to do with those wires. So I'll be right back again. I gotta get a little flashlight. So let me just look down in here. Anything else in the way? Anything else we need to worry about? Doesn't really look like it. I think it should come out now. Let me just hold on to it briefly here. Triple check the bottom. We've got all the wires out of the way, and we do. So let's see if we can just work this out now. I'm going to bring my light a little closer, maybe turn the brightness up a little. That's not much more brightness, but it'll have to do. Don't force it. If it doesn't want to come out, figure out why. And right now it does not want to come out. What are we missing? Aside from my sanity, that is. But that's always been missing. It should come. Oh, that bracket down there is not coming out with the rest of it. Why not? Well, that's odd. That bracket doesn't even attach to the transport. Maybe it's just for that bottom plate that we took off. So this should come straight out now. Again, we'll just make sure all these wires are... Oh, we missed one. We missed this one. It goes all the way around to the back of the unit. That one right there. Good thing we were double checking and triple checking, huh? Okay, the transport is flopping around loose in there, so we should be able to just bring it out. Oh, I see what's going on here. The one we just disconnected. That is for the electroluminescent panel that lights up the front here. So we'll just drape that out front, out of the way. Okay, now what's hanging up here? Don't worry, we're not breaking it. It's just... Okay, that big bracket, the one that said doesn't attach to the transport, it's keeping the transport in. I gotta get some vice grips. Or even better, not vice grips, giant needle nose pliers. Seems like that's kind of glued in down there. At least I believe it's glued in. I don't think it's screwed in. Yeah, it's glued in or something. Give you a better view here. Little extra light. And there we go, out she comes. There's your little bracket. Double-sided tape. That's all that was holding that. Put it over there with the thing it was attached to. And now we have a clear path to remove the transport. Or we should have. And here it comes. One transport. Look at all these delicate wires down here. Be very super careful with these. You can even see the little flippy head mechanism down here. And that's one thing you got to be aware of when you put this back together. You do not want any of these tiny little wires to get bogged up in there, because that would not be good. That would not be good at all. Now we'll continue on and try to get access to this broken belt. And yeah, this is not something you want to do too many times on this transport, I'll tell you what. It was a pain on the RCA, and it's even more of a pain here. I'm just trying to figure out if I can leave this tension control board on the back on the mechanism. I think we can, actually. And because there is no current belt in there that's in any kind of decent shape, we don't have to worry about belt alignment just yet. Look at the front of this thing. That's ridiculous. Just taking a quick look to see how well lubricated these reel tables are. We might have to lube those up. I don't know if I'll worry about that in this video or not. I just want to try and get it playing. Now we will gently set her down like this. Pan you down a little bit if we can. And now we got to get the screws off the back here. Looks like we've got 3 screws to worry about, which is very familiar because that's what it was on the RCA. Nice long screw there. Now this screw has a little wire holder on it. I'm going to try and leave that in place, just get access to the screw. Now remember, this is a shorter screw on this one. And we'll get this last screw out. Which also feels like a shorter screw. And it is. Now, is this loose yet? Nope, we've got one more screw. So that's 4 screws. This is going to be a shorter one too. I can just tell. And it is, but it's a machine screw, so remember that. Now, let's see if we can move some wires out of the way here. And now we should have access to the belt area. Oh, and by the way, remember this one? This wire here? This goes down in here to where that machine screw went. So you got to put that back if you're servicing one of these. All right, let's move this out of the way. Move this out of the way. And I think we're good to go here. And there you go. These two solenoids here, they're the same on the RCA, and what these do is they activate the forward and reverse directions. So you have to make sure you get them back in place properly. There are a couple of little slots. You can see one right down in there, maybe. And then there's one right here. That's where these little pins go on these solenoids, so remember that. And as you can see, we've got a real mess on our hands. So, time for yours truly to glove up, because I am not getting my hands dirty today.